Welcome to the Vietnamese Poetry, Literature channel. Today we will listen to the work, Under the Shade of the Orchid, by author Hoang Lan. Let's listen. Ton slid the wooden door closed and gently entered. He felt completely cool. On the moss-covered brick road, rings of light filtered through the tree canopy and danced with the wind. A smell of fresh leaves wafted in the air. Ton pulled out a towel to wipe the sweat from his forehead. It was hot outside, then leisurely walked next to the low flower wall straight to the front of the house. It was so quiet, not a single sound in the garden, as if all the noise outside had stopped on the doorstep. Ton walked up the steps, placed his suitcase on the couch, then peered into the house. The soft and cool darkness glimmered through the bright colors he brought in from outside. Ton couldn't see anything clearly. After a while, getting used to the darkness, he realized that the scene of the old house had not changed. It was the same as the day he left. The silence was so quiet that Ton became choked up. It took him forever before he could softly call out, "Grandma." A shadow quickly shot out from inside and fell onto the table. Ton looked clearly. His grandmother's cat, the old cat that used to play with him in the past. The animal nestled its legs close to me and gently waved its tail, then its blue jade eyes looked up at the person. Ton smiled and came closer to caress the animal. "Where is your grandmother?" Ton walked down the thin platform. There was the sound of someone walking, then the lady, with white hair and a bamboo stick, came in from the garden. Ton was touched and excited and ran closer. "You're back?" The old lady stopped chewing betel. Her gentle eyes under her white hair looked up at her grandchild, lovingly. "Go inside the house without sunlight." Ton walked next to her, straight and strong, next to the skinny old woman. However, he felt that it was she who protected him, just like when he was a child. "Is there no one at home, ma'am?" "There is still Nyan. Today he went to measure rice on the other side of the village. Soon it will come back." "Have you eaten yet?" "Not yet. I'll be back on the train right away." "But I don't feel hungry." She looked at her grandson and urged, "Wash your face, then go to rest so you won't be tired. It's sunny like this and you don't ride?" Ton laughed. "There is a bit of dirt road, no need to drive. I can walk every day." But Ton still followed her advice. He went to the tank to scoop water into the basin to wash his face. The water was cool and Ton looked down at his shadow moving in the pool with scattered pieces of blue sky. All the days of his childhood returned to him. Ton has been away from home for nearly 2 years, yet he feels like he's always been at home. The landscape is still the same, the house is still quiet and the lady is still gray-haired and gentle. On the couch, a small lamp and an old cigarette. The round old cat lay next to him, his eyes half closed in peace and leisure. Ton saw that scene many times. Every time she returned to her grandmother, Ton felt so peaceful and leisurely. This house with a garden seemed to him like a cool and gentle place, where his grandmother was always ready and waiting to love him. "Well, what are you doing?" "She left me alone." The old lady still did not stop waving the whisk on the head of the bed. "No one has been there for a long time, so dust is everywhere." Ton had to let her fix the mat and rearrange the pillows. He felt so small. "I'm not tired when I go to rest." Let her pick some vegetable leaves to make soup and eat it cool. The old lady came out. Ton suddenly felt tired. He quietly lay down on the bed, stretching his limbs, feeling refreshed. Outside the window, the sky is bright blue, the leaves flutter under the gentle breeze. A tree trunk soared high in front of me. At the same time, he muttered, "Langiling," a faint fragrant scent was introduced. Ton closed his eyes to smell the fragrance and remembered that tree he used to play under, picking flowers. It was a long time ago, the day he first had this house, the day his parents were still alive. Then came the day when a grandmother and a child became entangled with each other. Tan goes to the province to work and then comes back every year and on holidays. Now the tree has grown. Tan felt his soul feel light and fresh, as if he had just bathed in a stream. He bathed in this fresh air. Busy days in the province are now so far away. The garden with its familiar trees already recognized him. I heard her come in. Tan lay still and pretended to sleep. She came closer and took care of the mosquito net, looked at her grandchild and chased away the mosquitoes. The wind blows gently on his hair. Tan still lay still, eyes closed, but knew she was with him. He did not dare to move, silently waiting for her to leave again. She went down to the kitchen to make dinner. The sound of sandals gradually fades. He was moved to the point of tears. I love you so much, now it's only you and me. And is she the only cook? No, it seemed like there was someone else's voice. The voice was clearer and faster. Tan listens. A laugh will come up. Whose language? It sounds so familiar that Tan can't remember. He quietly sat up, leaned on the window, bent over and looked out at the pond. The shadow of the royal orchid tree shook the whole area. He suddenly remembered, ran downstairs and called happily. Miss Na. The young woman who was picking vegetables heard the call and quickly raised her head. A smile appeared, her eyes lit up, then a soft voice. Mr. Tan. Are you back there? Tan stood leaning against the pillar, not answering yet. He looked at the pretty girl in a white dress, her black hair hanging down on her small neck, next to his grandmother's white hair. Ms. Na, the neighbor girl, still comes to play with him in the garden, and every time he comes back, he meets her at home as a friendly person. After a moment, Ms. Na said, This Mr. Tan is completely different from before. You remember too quickly. I'm still the same. The old lady bent over the vegetable basket, not looking at her grandchild, and replied, Do I look thinner? Not as good as being at home. Na looked up at Tan and smiled. I didn't say anything wrong. He looks black again. Fresh green vegetable leaves next to small white and pink hands. Tan also sat down. So, just like when he was at home, every day he still went to the kitchen with Na to watch her cook rice. The story is still fun and bold. At one point he mistakenly thought Na was his biological sister. Less than greater than 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 less than greater than. When Na brought the rice and put it on the table, the old lady told the young girl, You can eat and drink together here, my dear. Tan looked up. Eat for fun, Ms. Na. Please excuse me and your uncle, I just finished eating at home. It's okay for me to stand here. Tan looked dissatisfied. No, you have to sit down to eat. She is a guest forever. Na was scared, so she lifted her shirt and sat next to the old woman, but she only ate slowly, sparingly, and put down her chopsticks to stir rice for Tan. The meal was so fun. The food is very delicious, the heart is relaxed and happy. Occasionally he looked at Na's dark lips and pink cheeks. With a bright smile, she looked back at Tan, just a little, but with so much affection. Outside, it's still sunny. Thin Lee truss mixed with green on one side of Russia's white shirt. Young and fragrant cassava flower buds hang in the trellis, blending into the leaves. The cool and moss-covered bricks remind Tan of Na's two lovely feet walking on them. Two small feet, covered in sand, left the word outside the pond to return. He suddenly smiled, then asked, Does Miss Na still pick up fallen orchids? Na also smiled a little shyly. Still picking it up. But no one competes anymore. She looked at Tan, the sunlight seemed to gather images from before, and would brush her sideburns to one side. Tan felt his heart beat gently. The old lady was busy looking at her grandchild. Uncle Nyan folded his arms and leaned against the listening column. I was also happy to see you return, still healthy and handsome as before. And Ms. Na is still as beautiful and cheerful as ever. Having an aunt at home also makes it easier to be absent, and an aunt and uncle also makes it less sad, every day. She runs to help the old lady pound the beetle mortar and talk to people who are away from the province and haven't come home for a long time. Meal finished. Ton and Na have returned to being as close as when they were children. Ton took her to visit the garden. The lang lang tree is tall, its branches drooping down as if welcoming the two of them. Sometimes when they were close together, Ton saw that Na's hair smelled faintly like it was covered with lang lang. But the orchids have not yet fallen, they are still green on the branches, Na told Ton. The days I came here to pick flowers, I missed you so much. Ton didn't know what to say. He screwed down an orchid branch and held it in his hand so that Na could find the flower, then gently let it go and let the branch bend up again. The sun shines on the two people's shoulders, but the ground below is still cool as before. When will you wake up? Tomorrow only. This period has little rest. But tomorrow, I will come back here longer. Ton's heart calmed down. Na went to the tank to scoop water to wash the flowers, then arranged them on top of the beetle. The old lady looked at her lovingly. The flowers are still very young, why are you picking them so early, child? Na said. My brother picked it, and she looked at Ton and smiled. That night, a woman, a child and a neighbor girl talked under the light until late at night, when the moon rose. Through the garden, Ton Tien Na went to the gate, passing both banks of dew-wet leaves. The faint scent of lang lang floats in the fragrant breeze. Without hesitation, Ton took Na's hand and placed it in his hand. Na also stood silently. From time to time, Na would withdraw her hand and say, Well, I'll go home. Ton walked back in very leisurely. There is something sweet and silky somewhere here that makes him fall in love. He went to the sofa and sat by the lamp. Less than greater than 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 less than greater than. The next morning, Ton had to go to the province. His suitcase was heavy with the gifts his grandmother had given him. Ton held his hat and stood listening to her thoughtful advice under the flower trellis. He is still too young and has gone far away. At the gate, Ton stopped and looked at the royal orchid and other plants in the garden. Uncle Nyan quickly held his suitcase for him, and Ton softly told him, Tell me to say hello to Ms. Na. Then he walked away half sad and half happy. Ton thought of the house as a cool and happy place where he often returned to rest after work. And Ton knows that Na will still wait for him, still miss him like before. Every season, she wears orchids in her hair to commemorate the scent. At the end of the work, please support me with the like button and subscribe to the channel to listen to more works.